half a century in the TV business. What was your first job in TV?
First job was I got a job at a TV station in Los Angeles. When I came out of the Navy, I drove up there. And the guy said, I'll call you. Don't call me, I'll call you. So I come back to New York. My uncle was the CBS press agent for Arthur Godfrey. He said, they're never going to call you. That's the oldest line of the world. Don't call us, we'll call you. If you really want a job in this business, I'll get you a paid job at NBC. And my first show was The Tonight Show, started by Steve Allen, not at 30 Rock, at 44th Street Hudson Theater. And I stood in the second balcony of this theater watching Steve Allen at the piano, playing, laughing. Everything he said was a scream. He had three guys in there, Louis Nye, Bill Dana, Tom Poston as his backup, and Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet were the singers, two kids from Brooklyn. And I watched them and I said, my God, what talent do I have? What right do I have to even think about being a member of TV? So it was quite a setback. And then I let my people in, you know, the audience. And so that's how it started for me.
So where do you go from that sobering moment where you think you don't belong to a guy who has belonged more than anyone? You've been on television in front of the camera, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, more than anyone in the history of television. How did you get to that point where at first you were doubting yourself?
Well, yeah, I doubted myself badly, and then the guy finally called from L.A., come on out, I got a job for you. I lifted furniture and took things out of the studio and then put them back in the prop house, and like a wise guy, I would write funny stories about reviewing the movies that were being played on this poor, simple local TV station just started. And at night, late at night, I would thumbtack them up. And naturally, I got caught. And this guy was a tough ex-Marine, and he chewed me out, but he said, you know something, you can write. I'm going to let you write for our newscaster, Baxter Ward. But Baxter likes funny stuff. So then I got that, and then I went down to San Diego, worked in a news wagon. And then they liked what I was saying in the news wagon. The TV station brought me over. And I started with sports, too. They tried me for 2 weeks. The sportscaster was gone on vacation. So that's how it all started. But how it became 16,000 hours plus is because for 3 years in L.A., I did a 3-hour show every day for 3 years. And so that added a lot of hours. And I did lots of hours on TV. It's all ahead of you, Jack.
Well, you mentioned that it started with sports. That's a perfect segue for me to talk about this new show. You're out of TV for a year and a half. You obviously missed it. You have to get back. Crowd Goes Wild. It's going to debut on August 19th on Fox Sports 1. What is this show going to be about?
Well, you know, I mean, they're mostly all these sports shows are mostly the same things they're talking about every day. We're going to try to add a little humor in it. We've got some nice people lined up. We've got Trevor Bryce, a great football player who played 14 years in the NFL, 2 Super Bowls. We've got Jason Gay from the Wall Street Journal. You know, good, solid people. We flew over a gal from England, Georgie. Georgie knows soccer like I don't know soccer, you know. Thank God Georgie's there. So it's going to be a little fun in addition to what's happening in the day.
Now, from what I read, you're going to have a commentary to start the show. And what I loved about when you did Live with Regis and Kathy Lee and then Live with Regis and Kelly, the beginning of that show, which to me always seemed unscripted, and I imagine it was, those were the best parts. Interviews are great, but I love the rant. I love when Letterman would do a rant. Yeah. Is that kind of what that opening commentary is going to be? Your thoughts on sports of the day?
You know, they want that. You're absolutely right. And that was the biggest hit of the talk show that I did for 28 years here in New York, plus back in L.A. I saw that Jack Parr do it once. He talked about where he had been here in New York City, who he had seen, what he had done, and he made it sound so comfortable and funny. I said, geez, I used to do that in the Bronx with the guys on the corner. I'll bet I could do that now, and that's how it all started. But now, this is really a sports show. I've got 5 or 6 people on the panel who are sports enthusiasts. Does anybody really give a damn about Regis, what he did last night anymore?
Yes, that's why you're on the show.
I'm trying to work it out, Jack, but I can't figure it all out.
Crowd goes wild, gets its sea legs under it. You're a couple of months in. Give me what would be what you want that show to be. I mean, do you want a LeBron James or do you want a Dwayne Wade? Do you want those guys to stop by for an interview? Are those the kinds of things you're shooting for, in addition to the interaction you say you want to have with your colleagues?
I think it's very necessary to get as many of those athletes on as you can. As a matter of fact, I had a great idea for my first one. You want to hear it?
Absolutely.
Notre Dame is opening the season against Temple. Temple, the last couple of years, has become stronger. Well, years ago, when I started my talk show, first one in 61, I think it was 62, Bill Cosby got hot, just starting his career. So, and I read his background, and he was a defensive back on Temple. Now, all these years, he's been a friend, gotten along fine. Well, I'm going to ask the Cos to come on the night before or a couple of days before Temple dares to play Notre Dame at Notre Dame and tell me what he thinks of this team now, because I know he's still a follower. And let's talk about you as a defensive back. How good were you? How many interceptions did you make? Huh? I'll have some fun with them, in other words.
Now, that's tremendous,
Yeah.
because not only will we get the background, but I have a feeling that he'll be pretty funny.
Oh,
I have a feeling that it won't take much to get a few laughs.
No,
from Bill
that's
Cosby.
exactly why we want him. He's going to be funny. He really is. He'll remember the past, and he'll have a lot of things to say.
Where does your first Yankee memory come from? A kid who grew up in the Bronx. When do you first remember saying, wow, I like those pinstripes. I like being at Yankee Stadium?
Yes, it was a doubleheader with the Philadelphia Athletics. Connie Mack in the all dressed up, you know. My father took me, and it was a doubleheader. You know how long doubleheaders were in those days? And it was hot. And I remember watching Joe DiMaggio run out. And my father would say, look how Joe DiMaggio runs. He runs a little differently than the others. He's got another gait to him. And so I began watching Joe DiMaggio.
Do you remember what year we're talking now? What year that would have been?
Well, I think it was like 1940.
Okay.
I think Connie Mack was still there, but I know Connie Mack was it was around early 40s, because it was before the war began and my father left for the Marine Corps. So, but that's how it began for me. And then I would go over to the Polo Grounds, watch Mel Ott, you know, and Sid Gordon at third base, and Willard Marshall, all those home run hitters. Carl Hubble. I went to Ebbets My father took me. Ebbets Dodgers against the Giants. Hubble threw like almost a no-hitter, beat them 1-0. Great games that I'll always remember.
So you said you want to ask Bill Cosby what kind of football player he was.
Yes.
I want to ask Regis Philbin, what kind of baseball player were you?
I played, I caught, first of all, because
Wow.
everybody on my team in my class was too chicken to catch. So little Regis got there behind the plate, and it was murder. But then I played a little bit of a second base as well. But we played in Bronx Park, CYO. And it was great. And then we had a football team, too, that we played in Marshallou Park. So one day, we're playing in Marshallou Park. It was a Saturday, and I see buses coming up and guys in gray suits walking out. It was the Army going into the game. And then I remembered, yes, it's 1946. Leahy is back. Notre Dame is unbeaten. It's going to be Notre Dame against the Army. And it was, and it turned out to be a tie. I mean, I went home and heard it on the radio.
And so your affinity for the Yankees, your affinity for Notre Dame, I mean, sports has been a central part of your life.
And that's why I came back to this offer to come back to Fox Sports 1. They're starting something. I mean, it's one thing to start a show. It's another thing to start a network.
Right.
It's a lot of work, a lot of meetings and all that stuff. And so we're just trying to we're the only show from New York on Fox Sports 1. So we're trying to have something a little different there, too.
Now, in terms of research, and I know that there will be research when you have a guest on and things like that, but in terms of the sports research, I'm sure you're watching the games anyway, I would imagine. You're a Yankee follower, so you're checking in on what they're doing,
Right.
the other New York teams. So will that part of it come easily? Because if you didn't have your own TV show, my guess is Regis Philbin is talking to his friends about sports anyway.
You're right. You're right. So it's gonna be perfect for me, right?
I think so. We're doing it right now.
That's right. I love sports too. And what about you? The same thing for you as a kid growing up?
Oh, absolutely.
Are you a New York kid?
I grew up in Jersey City,
All
which
right.
I always considered kind of the sixth borough.
Sure.
And I can remember from my older brother it trickling down, being 4, 5, 6 years old and loving baseball. Could not get enough baseball. I knew when I was 12 years old I wanted to be a sports journalist.
Oh, boy. And your favorite team?
I grew up as a Met fan, but here's why. Born in 64, the Mets win in 69. It's kind of the first time I'm becoming acclimated to the sport. My brother was a couple years older, and he said, this is the team you have to follow. But I will tell you this. I started working for the New York Times. This interview is supposed to be about you, by the way, but I'll tell you quickly. You become objective immediately. The first baseball game I covered, you realize you're there to tell a story.
Yeah.
And if you have an allegiance to a team, you can't tell the story properly. So I was taught at an early age as a newspaper writer, focus on the game and cheer for good stories, don't cheer for a team.
Pretty hard to do, but you're right. That's exactly what you got to do when you're reporting a story about them, yeah. So anyway, that's what I hope we do. And I hope we get these guys who have time maybe before they go to Madison Square Garden, although LeBron James, you mentioned, people like that, love to get them just for 5 minutes, you know, just to be a part of the show. We're doing it from Chelsea Piers.
Right.
No room at the Fox building for Regis. Can you believe that? I'm looking forward to the Fox building, you know, elevators. I want all that stuff. I got to go to the Piers.
That's all right, though. That's a nice area down there, and I think people will be excited
it
to
is
join
nice.
you.
The breeze blows in off the Hudson. It's okay.